Special Ad Hoc Committee meeting, February 13th, 2025.
Special Ad Hoc Committee meeting, February 13th, 2025. Members, Bill Stuckert, Aaron Sherrick, Jared Miller, Ken Long, Greg White, Dan Wireball, Ray Thidoff, Clarissa Slater, and James Mead, Chair. Welcome new members. And we come to order at 4:02. Public participation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You don't have to.
That's all right. Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. Mr.
Point of
Chairman,
order.
I can no longer,
Point of order. If you're on the committee, how can you also be in public participation? unless
So
it's been something
before we
else?
get into too much stuff, you have to ask permission of the chair to leave, and then you have to ask permission to come back.
oh, okay. Can I do public participation?
But then you have to get permitted to come back.
That's fine.
Okay.
Business wants.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I can no longer serve on this ad hoc committee with a new member who viciously accused me of being involved in drug trafficking ring, and that appearance of my current weight loss is being on illicit substance based on their personal and work experience and not a medical profession. I served my country for 30 and a half years. I'm a veteran. I'm a current volunteer firefighter and a member of this community. My military issues are not anyone's concern but my family, closest friends, and the VA. My brothers and sisters fight each and every day of their life with medical issues. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. My military core values were instilled in me: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do, but most of all, honor. My oath that I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States and said, so help me God, which I live by each and every day of my life until my last breath. I am an American airman. I am a warrior. I have answered my nation's call. I am an American airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I am faithful to a proud heritage, a tradition of honor, and a legacy of valor. I am an American airman, guardian of freedom and justice. My nation's sword and shield. I'm a sentry and an avenger. I defend my country with my life. I am an American airman, a wingman, a leader, a warrior. I will never leave an airman behind. I will never falter, and I will never fail. Thank you. I resign from this ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Well, we
Hold
don't
on.
have...
Monty, we need a recess at 4:05.
There's
The creation of the Bucyrus City Property Maintenance Code is reconvened. Greg White has resigned. We do not have a voting quorum, but we do have a discussion, enough for a discussion. So public participation, there's none. We can't approve the minutes, so we can table those. And the 2012, 2024 International Property Maintenance Code and the vacant property registration, creation of the Bucyrus Property Maintenance Code, and versions ratless of the Property Maintenance Code. So, my suggestion that I was thinking of that we will not vote on tonight was we had the 2012 as a backup, then we went to the 2024 as a backup. We had Ratliff's code first, then we had the 2024 code as a backup to Ratliff, which if there wasn't nothing in Ratliff's, it was in the 2024 code. That defeats the purpose of why the ad hoc committee was created in the first place. Agreed? All right.
I disagree.
Okay, let me state my
Go
point.
ahead.
Let me state my point. The Ratliff he's dead on when he started this, but it wasn't finished. So my suggestion to the committee, if we had a quorum, was to have Mr. Goldberg go through it, just like we would if we had an ORC or legislation in council, and bring us something that includes Ratliff's version, plus whatever else we need, just for Bucyrus. Then we would have a Bucyrus property maintenance code. And that way we don't have to fall back on an international property maintenance code, which there's a lot of problems with that, because you can almost pick and choose of what you want in there and apply it to people that you like or dislike. And if we have a property maintenance code for Bucyrus, it's for everybody that owns a property, for every property in Bucyrus. How do you guys feel about that? Discussion, please.
So will the committee, I guess, go through Radliff's first and then give it to the law director? Or is he going to, because I think that's probably the best use of everybody's time. You know, we should probably beat that thing up first, and then once we're in some kind of an agreement, then it should, in my opinion, should go to law director then, to make sure it's legal.
Okay, here's how we do legislation and stuff. We'll take committee, we have Brandon write the legislation, then we pick him apart.
Okay, no, that's fine.
When he brings that legislation, or this property maintenance code, the Bucyrus property maintenance code, back to us, then we pick it apart
Okay,
and make changes. Then we send it back to him and he rewrites it. Then he brings it back to us. We hold another meeting and we pick it apart again. And he makes it just for Bucyrus.
okay.
Makes changes as we need them. Tell me. You're thinking something. I know you're grinning.
And that's great. I think in the perfect world that would work. But here's the thing. So let me pick something out. Say a chimney. Okay, here's a chimney. What's the height a chimney has to be above roof line? I have no idea. Do you?
Do you know if it's in the property maintenance code?
That's more of a
In
building
it-
code.
Yeah. that'd
I
be-
don't know.
That'd be a building
But
code.
if
I don't think
I know
chimneys
some,
are-
I've seen some out here coming out of the side of a house and going up, and I'm like, that's gonna
That's
cause a
building code
fire.
thing. I put a wood burner in my house a few years back. It was a building code thing.
Okay, well, is it in there? I don't know. But here's my point. Here's my point. I just picked that. Anyway, we don't know everything that's out there, you know? To have something, whoever worked on this, I don't know, I bet if you looked, maybe it says in the back, everybody that worked on it. You know, there's like hundreds of people that got together and put this together, you know, with a lot of experience, you know. And Brandon, he's a good guy, but, you know, he'd probably be the first one to tell you, he don't know everything. I don't know everything, you
Well,
know.
no one does.
But I always liked the fact that, okay, this is really good. I think the thing that got me in this property maintenance code was you had to have a ground fault in this spot and that spot in your house, you know, and I don't have a ground fault in my bathroom at home, you know. I should have, but I don't. But are you gonna, you know, you're gonna fine me for that if for some reason you find out about that? Some of that stuff,
That's more of electrical codes.
that's, I know ground faults are in there.
See, that's going back to what we discussed about who's certified to go in the house and go through all that stuff and who's gonna be outside looking at
Or, you know.
curbside.
Yeah, well, look at, when we first started this, Wells over, Wells over here. Oh, he's got a question here.
All right. This is very
Yeah.
demonstrative. You picked chimney height.
Okay.
This doesn't mention chimney height. This refers to the International Fire Code,
Right.
which I'm sure doesn't mention it either. That's the problem with it.
So with the electrical that you were talking about, that's the standard electrical.
So if you want to say something about chimney height or whatever, it would go in our own property maintenance code. It wouldn't go in this because it doesn't cover that.
But I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot if we, you know.
Well, that's
I mean,
what we're
this
here
is a
for.
lot right here. And basically, you want to rewrite it just for us, and that's fine.
Yeah, because this is dumb.
But
It's not a lot of it in there is, Mr. Goldberg was telling me, it's unenforceable in Bucyrus. so-
Oh, yeah, yeah. And that's the whole other thing, you know, we got 2-hour parking all through downtown. When was the last time that was enforced? You know, it's all
Well-
up to the enforcement.
We don't have an answer for everything. We can just do the best we can with what
I'm
we have.
just
to work
worried,
with.
and you're the legal, that if we miss something, then what? You know, say, well,
There can be a
that should have
catch-all
been
in
in your
there.
code.
I mean,
you
we
know?
can have a catch-all provision in there that leaves it up to the administration in cases of emergency or novel ideas or instances.
Essentially giving them a deference.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what we're doing? We write our code, and then anything that's not in that code falls back on this.
But see, here's the thing, you just said something that's not in here.
Right.
So, most of this doesn't apply to Bucyrus. Most of it can't be enforced by the city of Bucyrus, and those that can be, no one can comply with.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb.
Well, then just throw the whole thing out.
And then replace it with what?
Well, I don't know, I guess that's what we're gonna do.
That's what I want, Mr. Goldberg, to set up a piece of legislation for the Bucyrus Property Maintenance Code. That way we can look to it, add to it, take away from it, whatever we need to do. And he's gonna take the 2024, the 2012, and Ratliff's version and put it all together.
Yeah. Well,
That's
my
what
my
we
only
had
fear is
discussed.
that when we first did it, and I just told you the other day, when we first did this, it was, Moore was up here, he'd come in one meeting, he says, I want legislation that says people cannot have a couch on their front porch. He says, I drive around, I see these couches on the front porch. So that's when we first delved back into the IPC. I think we had 9 at that time, when we changed it to the 12, okay? And, or somehow I think there was one in between there, but anyway, we said, okay, this is what it says. So that's why we started following that. And because, you know, is that something we're gonna have? We're gonna have couches on the front porch? You know, are you allowed to have couches? Are you allowed to have appliances on your front porch? There's just a lot, you know.
That's all I
Yeah, but I mean, we're gonna have to write that now.
Well, I've seen that,
Did you read Ratliff's?
yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that's covered in there. I don't remember where it's
Couches on the
covered
front
in there,
porches.
but
So, Mr. Chair, where do you, looking at this, where do you think the Ratliff has been left off of? I know you're saying, let's just give it to Brandon and have him write it. I'm not disagreeing, I'm just trying to make sure I understand that. What about the current version is unfinished, or what is missing from it that we can't discuss it today?
We can't make a decision.
We can't make a decision, decision.
We can't vote on it.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So, to your point, Dan, in section 104.03, it specifically mentions refrigerators, which Ratliff must have ripped this from the Nevada city code, or village code, because this reads word for word theirs. Refrigerators and all such equipment / other appliances with doors or lids shall not be stored on outdoor property for more than 10 consecutive days without first removing the doors or lids. Now, that reads exactly the same as the Village of Nevada's property section, which means, yes, you can have those on your porch for more than 10 days, as long as you remove the doors, whether or not it says that or not.
No, I'm fine. You write something and then we'll look at it.
Now, if we don't want appliances on the porch at all, we can fix that, which I think is probably a good idea.
Which, well, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I know plenty of people who have outside
That's what I was gonna bring up. Outside kitchens.
kitchens, yeah. So where if you're gonna say you can't have it on your porch, well then someone who actually has a working, operating, and well-maintained fridge now can no longer have appliances on their porches, so.
My back porch.
I believe last time we discussed this, I think someone said non-working
Must be.
Yeah, we went
That would
over
be a
this.
great,
We went over this
Yeah.
months ago already. I know it's new to some, but
Yeah.
we rewrote some
non-functioning
things months ago.
appliances. That'd be great.
And it was a non-working, I don't know if Jim remembers it, I don't know if Ken remembers us talking about it, but
In detail.
Ken, you got anything to add to those discussion?
No, I think the thought process is great. I just think if the reason I think there's a committee is to bring up a problem, whether it be refrigerators or chimney heights or whatever, and us get the foundation built for what we want in there, and then he can make it look pretty.
Well, I think the Ratliff version's got a good start on it. And the thing about, I gotta compare it to council, because if we don't, we can discuss it and pull it apart and put it back together as many times as we want. But if we don't have it on paper sitting in front of us,
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I guess that's where my point was, is that if it's already been, I'm trying to understand the intention in which the Ratliff was developed. Was it developed as a replacement, or was it developed as a supplementation on, like, the primary referring document?
I believe it was supposed to be the primary referring document.
His intent was, he knew there was problems, I don't want to speak for him, but he knew there was problems with it, and he was trying to create something newer, better, more focused on, for us.
You're right, you're right, because there were issues with it, and these are the things that, like, what was it? From September 1st to May 30th, and I don't even know what that is, but I'm assuming that's something that has to do with, there's 6 inches on the one, that's probably how much, the height of your grass, I'm assuming. So, just the things that weren't in the IPMC is what he was trying to correct. No, I'm okay, as long as it's covering what needs to be covered. But the intention, I guess what I was getting at in the beginning, the intention, because I was here when we kind of really started this, was that there were complaints that, hey, so-and-so's got garbage in their front yard. There was a house down on Kaler that was really bad for a while. It looks pretty good now because I drive by it all the time. I don't know what the guy was doing, collecting bikes or something, but there were different things. I think one of the things is in here, or maybe in our old one, was you could not store used building materials. On your property. Now, I remember back from, well, there's a Dairy Queen there now, but after the, what was it, Silver Dollar burnt down,
oh,
the guy that had the, if anyone remembers that far, if you're old enough, the guy who had the theater out here, he started storing stuff up here, and Barger, yeah. And so that's probably where this first came about. He had this stuff stored on the main drag, and it really looked bad. That was before I was probably still a kid. But I think the intent of this is to keep the town looking decent. Like I say, the couches on the front porch, grass too long, whatever else, broken windows. But I know that this gets pretty particular where it says if your windows aren't caulked with some, a certain caulk, then, it's a violation. Now that's picky, yeah. It's that kind of stuff. Now, when we were doing this, is it Dave, over on Warren Street. I want to say Wells, but his wife was the Wells, I think. Anyway, he was waiting to paint his house, and Ratliff sent him a citation, and this guy, he keeps a really nice house, but he was just waiting, you don't paint your house until you get scraped, and and he got a citation, and he was up in arms on that, but that's what this code was saying. And I think Ratliff was trying to make a point that, hey, we could take a decent house that's, might need painted. If it's got flaking paint, then you're in violation of the property maintenance code, so you can get cited. So, I mean, how far do you want to take it, you know? So, I don't know, is it,
Mr. Chairman, if we don't nail down the purpose of this committee and what our goal is, we're just gonna keep going in circles again.
So the purpose of the committee is to make a Bucyrus property maintenance code for every property owner in Bucyrus.
And make one from scratch.
No,
Or are we
we're gonna
use
take the
this?
Ratliff version. We're gonna pull what we need out of the 2024 version. Brandon's gonna put that all together and bring it back to us so we can pick it apart. Say, hey, we don't need this or we need that. I don't know, if you've got a better idea, then,
No, I just want us to focus on that goal so we're not doing circles.
right.
I agree. Because I've been pulling my hair out for the last 3 months, so 4 months. No hair jokes.
I understand what council does and how they do it. Would it be appropriate if the group, which the reason why there's 8 or 9 of us here, is to collectively come up with some ideas, if we just come up with an item by item draft of what we're looking for that we can give to the law director? So he's not starting out with a clean sheet of paper.
Yes. Yeah. He takes suggestions.
Absolutely.
Email him. Email me. I'll make sure he gets it. I'll send a
Okay.
copy to Miranda and him.
Okay, well, I don't know if we're gonna do it in committee so we can discuss it, and then, I don't know if we can, I'll come with an idea. Let's talk about peeling paint on a house, okay? We think that's a great idea, okay? So if we put that in just draft, that's the number one item, okay? And then we'll have discussion how much peeling paint, how long it's been there, you know, those kind of things. But I think that's gonna save the law director a bunch of time, because what I can see is this being a long-term project, if we leave it up to any one person, especially a law director when he's got 15 things going on. So, where we have one committee, or the people in the room here, we're on one committee, that should be, I think we're supposed to be guiding this thing along. Having discussion, talk about this or that, you know, like, one thing, I remember, I'm old, 30 years ago, when either this was formed or spoke, I think it was Boke at the time, there was a line in there about how large the screen hole can be on a piece of, on screen. And this room was packed. You couldn't even stand in here, because individual homeowners, not a bunch of landlords, individual homeowners saw where they're gonna lose their property rights. Because if it starts out with screens, then it'll be the color of your house, then it'll be this and it'll be that. And that thing crashed like a helicopter. Okay, so because of that, and
All right, Ken, do you have a certain subject that you'd like to discuss? That's in the property maintenance code, that's in the Ratliff code, or?
oh, I've got a short list of things just to get started. Okay, because I know it takes time to discuss all this stuff.
Okay.
I think one of the first things we should talk about is the person that administers the code, meaning the inspector. You know, who that person is, what their qualifications are, what training they need, things like that, because that's been at least a 10-year issue for people already, is because we've got an inspector in name only. You know, there's no qualifications. And I think someplace, Doug, in that IMPC, which we're not going to use anymore, I think it talks about what your qualifications are. And like I said, if we don't use this, I'm good, because it isn't applicable for Bucyrus. Okay, this is New York, Chicago, LA kind of thing. It's not us. But
Okay.
the basics of it, you know, okay, who is going to qualify? Who is going to be that person, and what are their qualifications? 'Cause we don't have police without being qualified, or firefighters, or EMT, or XYZ. So that person goes out and does what he does. Who says he's right?
Okay, so we're talking about the property maintenance code enforcer.
Right, that's just to start with. I mean, then you get
Okay,
into more
well,
than.
let's just talk,
Okay.
Ray, you got any thoughts on the property?
I've said it before, if we don't have anyone to enforce this, it's not worth a hill of beans.
So he's talking about qualifications of the enforcer. So which
We
would be?
need an enforcer.
We have one,
Yeah.
Gordon Grove. That's what he did at the fire
That'd be Gordon
department.
Groves, but
Time.
Ken's point is he's not qualified.
Mr. Chair.
I wouldn't say he's not qualified, but he's part-time, and I've actually went down a few times during the summer, and it's always, nothing against Gordon Grove, but he's never there. He's on vacation in the winter. He's off, till March?
Yeah, he only works 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything bad about that, but a part-time property maintenance inspector is.
I can clarify that, because we put him on when I was on council. We only had enough for 15 hours a week. We're paying him for 15 hours a week. So he has, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do agree with, he's condensing his 15 hours a week, spread that over, whatever,
I'm not
52
saying
weeks.
anything bad about.
No. And he's trying to condense it to the summer when he can get out to see these. Because I was up in arms a couple years ago. I came up here and, well, he's not coming back till
Right.
April 1st. I'm like, why not? Well, because he works the summer and then is off
Yeah.
in the winter,
What if
but,
we get a complaint in January?
Right.
It waits till summer.
right, and that's
Clarissa?
so,
So one of the things that, we touched on is that Bucyrus is not Chicago. And many of our tradesmen are done so by apprenticeship or just by experience. So if you're thinking something along those lines, maybe we can outline having experience in a position that reviews maintenance or working as a contractor or something in which would make it sufficient they would know what is a good standard. Not to use a personal example, but I believe that my father is completely self-taught as a mechanic, but I arguably think he's probably one of the best in town. Just because you don't have a piece of paper behind your name doesn't mean that you're not experienced or qualified to do something. So, I don't know if there's maybe like a job description or the administration can provide that would outline qualifications or experiences. I'm not sure if those exist for that position.
Mr. Goldberg, you heard the arguments.
Mhm.
So Gordon Groves is a fireman, more or less,
He used to be, yeah.
ex-fireman.
Mhm.
Would that disqualify him from enforcing?
No. I don't necessarily agree with the way he enforces the code, but he's a competent code enforcer.
So as far as, we know he's a fireman, so as far as electrical, is he qualified to say, this might cause a fire, this might not cause a fire, this is legal, this is not legal?
I think,
HVAC, electrical, I mean, HVAC includes gas.
no, he wouldn't be qualified.
could we get into any of that, but aren't we just kind of looking at, you drive by and this house looks like shit, and, oh, sorry about that. Anyway, this house looks like crap. Or the neighbor saying, I'm
But then
tired of
again,
this guy.
no one would have all those qualifications.
We couldn't
We'd end up
afford
paying them
anyone
$500
with all
grand a
those
year.
qualifications.
I think
Right.
if it gets to that point, he's gonna have to get a hold of a professional or something like that, but he's the first set of eyes to look at something and say, oh, wait a minute.
That doesn't look right, let's bring somebody else in.
Right, I agree with Ray on that. And that just comes from experience. You don't really need any,
I think he's got plenty of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
He's way qualified for that job,
I mean, we can,
but he's just.
legally, we can
too thin.
require a doctorate, but I think that's dumb. I agree with Clarissa and I agree with Ray that it comes with experience more than anything. You don't have to have the qualifications to say something is or is not right. You just have to have the fundamentals of, that doesn't look right. I'm gonna call somebody who is qualified to come take a look at that before we move forward.
And the majority of the complaints are outside,
Right.
from the curb, drive-by kind of thing.
Okay, Ken?
But with, let's just say 10 years of this, that's never happened where they brought somebody in, because it costs $1. You know, here's a simple process here. They brought that inspector in, unrelated to Gordon Groves personally, it's got nothing to do with him, okay? They found somebody that worked here or whatever, and they said, boom, you're gonna be our inspector. Qualified or not, you're the guy. Because they didn't wanna spend, let's just say 100 grand a year for somebody that could be qualified and have, you know, certain criteria, you know, things he's done, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Because they wanted to go cheap, okay, number one. And then you can prove that because they wanted working 15 hours a week, you know, 6 months out of the year, okay? Enough time to go out and write a bunch of stuff up, and then when there's follow-up needed, like Ray, there's no one home. The lights are on, nobody's home, okay, that kind of thing. All right, so there's a problem financially with what's going on here now. Now, there's a great way to correct it. That's gonna cost somebody 100 grand a year, you know, the city. Well, I don't think they're gonna wanna do that. And so there's always gonna be this back and forth. And I've had enough homes inspected that there's never been anybody, you know, the A-team's been brought out to verify whatever, okay? And in also fairness, 80% of the things aren't something that an A-team person has to do, okay? But you still have to, somebody has to make a ruling on a given item. Is this bad enough or not bad enough, or is this correct or not correct, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And so and there's no level to do the same thing either. There's nobody internally.
So, you handle his budget.
Yes.
So I'm guessing there's no room in there to bring in, if he's got a problem with one of my houses electrically, and I say bring Ken Brothers in to look at it, that's $150.
Right. So that wouldn't be our responsibility. It would be the homeowner's responsibility to
I'm
have
not
it
calling,
inspected.
I'm the homeowner, I'm not calling, you are. You say it's not right, I say it's right.
Mhm.
So I'm innocent until proven guilty.
Then we go to court and we get an injunction, and the court tells you, hey, they have reasonable basis to say that this needs inspected. You have to get it inspected.
Question though, does that go to, at what point does the appeals board step in? Was that before court or?
That's a good question. It would have to go before court, then we would go for the injunction. Because everything is appealable as long as it's not an emergency.
And I did have a suggestion on that. I saw that it seems like we have a hard time staffing that.
Yes.
We cross-referenced the IBC in this chapter. Why do we have three separate, well, we have two boards that operate in conjunction with each other, right? So the BZA and the International Building Code. Would it be unreasonable for that to be also their responsibility for the property maintenance? To be one unified board?
No, that would have to be separate.
Yep.
No. Council member can't set on the BSSA,
Right.
Well,
BZA.
and I set on the BZA.
but according to our ordinances, they're the same. The IBC and the BZA. Hold on. I have it.
They're two separate committees, aren't they?
They are, but they are the same. They're separate by name. They're separate by name, but they
Right.
are the same people. 1319 was.
Right. Each one has to have its own record.
Right. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying, merge them in name. I'm saying have the same people for the same board. It would be within their it would be within their wheelhouse, I guess. That's what I was thinking.
Well, that would be infringing on the chief appointing authority's right to appoint who he wants to each particular board or committee, and the two chief appointing authorities in the city of Bucyrus is shared by the mayor and the president of council. So I don't think, unless we have something backed up by state statute, you can tell them who they can and cannot appoint, because state statute tells them they are the chief appointing authority. The difference with the Community Improvement Corporation is state statute says mayor has to be on there, these people have to be on there. I don't think we can get away with saying that you have to have the same people on both committees. I don't think we can get away with that.
Maybe my voice isn't. I'm talking about the Board of Building Standards and Appeals and the BZA. According to our ordinances in chapter 1319.10, they're the same. My suggestion is when we're building this, that this internet or the property maintenance board is also the same people. We're building this legislation, correct?
Correct. I see what you're saying now.
Sorry, it might be nasally and we might have heard
I
it
see
wrong.
what you're saying. Yeah, that'd be fine. Okay, I see the distinction. That would be fine.
Explain it to me.
So she wants to put them,
Who? The BZA?
so she doesn't want to merge them, but she wants the same committee to enforce and be responsible for each one. Is that what you're saying?
So it says the Board of Building Standards and Appeals to consist of these individuals serving on City of Bucyrus Board of Zoning Appeals is presently constituted, I can't speak today, I'm so sorry. And the composition of the same may be updated from time to time as members complete these terms and reappointed or new members are appointed. Likewise, an individual appointed as secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals shall serve as secretary to the Board of Building Standards and Appeals.
Right,
I'm
so
saying that-
you want the same people to just have more responsibility.
Correct.
Okay,
And not get paid for
and not get paid for it. I see what you're saying now. That would be fine.
But I would assume, looking at these, that they would have significant overlap into similar issues. So that's what I was trying to
Sure.
streamline.
So, let me speak on what we were talking about, was qualified. So, Gordon goes out, the house needs something, he cites them, okay? And typically, he's got 30 days, 90 days, or whatever to get this fixed. Well, if you throw in inspection, but make the property owner pay for an inspection because of this, maybe not the first time, maybe it's like on the third, they didn't do it the first time, you take them back, you got your second warning. But the problem we've had with these is that you go out, it's $100 fine, and then that's all they just forget about it, A lot of people don't get it fixed, and got to take it to court. All of a sudden, they got it fixed right before court, So I don't know I just think we need to put a little more teeth in our,
Well, these are already first degree misdemeanors, aren't they?
Yes.
yes,
They're punishable by up to 180 days in jail.
yeah.
Every violation is?
If it's charged.
But you have to go through the whole court process, right? I know I know there's one house that and the gentleman used to be, I think he was a service safety director at one point, but one of his homes, later on in life, was on our list. Ratliff gave us a list, and I knew the gentleman anyway. Before it went to court, he ends up he sold the building. So now we had to start the process all over again. He had 30 days or whatever, 90 days, and then the next 90 days.
That
and then,
pesky constitution gets in the way of a lot, doesn't it?
yeah.
We're sworn to uphold that too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think the main thing that, I always thought the main thing this was for was to like, get people to kind of clean up what they had out there, you know? And just to be, not to be, you know, if your paint's peeling, so what? I don't care. But if you got junk cars in the front yard, if you got motorcycles, or, you know, we all know there's houses that have been sitting a certain way for years, you know, and nothing can be done. And that's the complaints that council always got from people. And I thought that is what we were trying to do here. We're not trying to make sure everyone has a GFCI outlet by their swimming pool, you know, or anything like that.
Right. Which is why we don't need the International Property Maintenance.
Right,
So.
right. But we need something, so.
That's what we're here for.
Now, if I may ask, I know that is what, our eyes are drawn to what we can see. So my only concern is, and maybe this is just coming from a parent, and what about the things that giving teeth to agencies for complaints regarding the livability of a property, not just the appearance on the outside? So how
JFS gets
microscopic?
to decide child welfare stuff.
Right, but I do know that a lot of times,
Like, we can decide basic stuff, but when it comes to whether it's acceptable for children, that falls with JFS and they don't like to share.
right, I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is though that there might be concerns of what a parent themselves feels is, and this is coming from more like probably like a rental situation, is acceptable and what is not. And so maybe giving the citizens, because many are renters, the ability to understand and have a process for them as well.
So they would have to go through
Yeah, JFS.
JFS. They would report that to
But
JFS if they had bad living conditions.
Specifically as it pertains to children, right?
Well, and I mean, that was just my perception is where I was coming from with it, but it's not just children. It could be someone with, an adult with a chronic health condition and it's being affected because of the internal conditions of a property.
All right, we're back to you, Ken.
I was gonna say, there's county agencies that already deal with that kind of stuff.
Well, you've heard the discussion, so.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, we're back to you. You've heard the discussion, so how do you feel? Who do you think should, you don't think Gordon Groves is qualified, correct? Is that your perception?
I don't think anybody in that position is qualified because whoever it may be. It's not a personal attack on Gordon Groves. He was put in that position and I don't feel he's qualified. There's no training, there's no anything else. What other position do we have around here that you just walk in and say, I'm the guy? You know, it doesn't work that way. It's cheap, okay.
Council, no?
Well,
Council.
and that could be an issue too, but.
Council president.
I think what we're looking for, though, any one of us is qualified to do it. We're gonna stand in front of a place and say, junk car, junk refrigerator. I mean, you don't have to be Einstein. We're not getting into it that far. That's where contractor would have to come in and go inside and look at the electrical and whatever. Common sense tells you, yeah, this place is a dump. Isn't that what we're trying to do, Dan?
Well, we're trying to look,
I thought that was the intent from years ago, you know, from probably 2010 or 2012.
I don't think we need to get into, is their house wired correctly? I think it's all the
Yeah,
curb
this-
appeal
this-
thing.
I don't think the scope should be that microscopic. I'm just questioning it while we're visiting it. The IPMC seems like it gets down to like like a microcosm level of, you know?
We still need that to fall back on if we need it.
Ken?
But if it's not enforceable,
But the inspector does go inside.
Well-
So,
Right.
I'm not trying, I guess, let me preface all my conversation with, I'm probably the most experienced person with dealing with property maintenance, okay, in the room. And I try to limit what I comment on, because I don't want to steal the show here, but, you know, it isn't just curb appeal, it's not just this or that. I mean, when there's an opportunity, for example, when a tenant goes in, or when a tenant calls and my whatever isn't right, okay, then he goes charging in there, and he's not there to talk about that leaky faucet until you walk out, you've got a page full of stuff, okay, right or wrong, okay. And then you guys talked about who's gonna pay, if I disagree with that, well then, who's gonna pay to have the real guy come in here and check it out? Well, that's gonna cost me money? That's never happening. Okay, we will litigate, okay? Now, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, so here we have a citizen, and let's just say you're trying to do your best you can, and something's wrong, okay? Then all of a sudden, I'm gonna get tagged supposedly to have an inspector come in. Well, you're not bringing the inspector in here for $100. I mean, they're coming from Mansfield, Marion, Columbus, wherever, you know, to come in here, because really, a licensed electrician, which was mentioned before, you know, they do work. That doesn't make them an inspector, though. That's a different job classification. All right, so you know we're trying to put a Band-Aid on everything we're talking here, and it's not going to be productive.
Now, see, let me interject here and talk about the different standards of each part of the proceedings. So, Gordon gets a complaint, someone comes out, he sees issues. He believes in his interpretation of the code, which is in here, in the International Property Maintenance Code, is that it does rely on the property maintenance officer's interpretation of the code. His decision is you have to get that inspected. He can't do it, because you're right, Gordon's not an electrician, he's
I
not
agree.
qualified. But we're not paying for that. You are, as the landowner, as the landlord, as the homeowner, whoever. You can appeal that. Goes to the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals holds a hearing. There's testimony from Gordon Grove, or whoever the PMO is. He says, this is what makes me believe, based on my interpretation of the code, this is why it needs inspected. I think it's dangerous, X, Y, Z. You put in, hey, I had this inspected here. Hey, this isn't a problem, blah, 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 blah. They make a determination. If it goes to you, if they decide that you do need to have it inspected, that's when you can appeal it to the court, or if you just don't do it, the law director can take the person to court and say, hey, judge, we want this injunction forcing them to do it. They went through the proper procedures. They say that they need to have it inspected. This poses a risk. Tell them to do it. Judge decides. If the judge tells you to do it and you don't, you can be held in contempt. So that's how the process goes.
That's how the process goes now. And that's by the International Property Maintenance Code, right?
Oh, you brought up a pretty point. That was put up, that's by the IMPO inspector, okay? And if we dig back in the archive there someplace, what's his qualifications? That's my first step. You know, until we get the inspector figured out on what he can't do, or if he's qualified to, you know, we're just chasing our tail. I mean, if we're going to reference the IMP, I'm good, but in there it talks about the inspector, and I'm going to take a wild guess here, he probably has to have qualifications. So we're back to that. Because to me, no, I'll leave that go.
Okay.
Going
gonna
back
say-
to what Clarissa said, you said the members, it would be good if they were a part of the BZA and BBSA. However, the members that do not want to re-up their term were also a part of those boards.
Oh,
So, pretty much the people who are on the Property Maintenance Appeals Board also have served on the BZA or BBSA in some capacity, or have that kind of familiar background. And that's, I mean, also laid out in the Property Maintenance Code.
Yeah, I was just suggesting that they were the same people that were on each, only to,
They just didn't want to re-up, so we're,
yeah.
yeah.
If I remember right, I think we did that because when we accepted this, we needed a property maintenance review board. And we said, just use the BZA. And so that's basically, and that's what Clarissa is saying, let's just use that. I think that's what we said. And I don't know if that's in
And right now,
the legislation anywhere.
I think it says in appeals that no council member can be on the appeals board.
Right, but the BZA, you're not on the BZA. No, there's 4. You're just the chairman of it or something.
No,
Is that
I'm
how
just a
it works?
member of the Board of Zoning Appeal, or Board of Zoning.
Board of Zoning Appeals is the same as
Not
the-
appeals, because a council member can't be on the appeals.
Okay. But you're on the
BZA.
Board of Zoning Appeals.
No, it's, what is
And
it?
then there's the board, the
Board of
Property
Zoning.
Maintenance
Appeals.
Appeals Board, right? There's 2 boards, BZA and the Property Maintenance Appeals Board, right? We have that?
and I think the same people
Are
have
on
been doing
those,
it.
yeah.
However, 2 did not want to re-up, so now the
Okay.
current issue is finding those people with the same kind of qualifications to fill those
Okay.
vacancies.
So, yeah, so I think when we first, well, not first, but in 12 or somewhere around there, when we adopted that IPMC, it said we needed that. So we said, we'll just use those guys that are on there then. But that was, like I say, that was 2012, so things changed.
Okay. Quick question, back to Ken. If you look, you have the packet with you?
Yes.
All right, if you look on page 10 of the International Property Maintenance Code, section 105, it doesn't give any required qualifications needed for the enforcement officer. However, it does leave it up to the chief appointing authority, and
It does?
like I said well, that's who gets to appoint the code enforcement officer. And like I said, in the city of Bucyrus and in many small cities, the chief appointing authority is a flip of the coin between the council president and the mayor. However, typically, council president gets to appoint people to boards and commissions, whereas mayor typically gets to appoint people in the administration. So in this circumstance, the mayor would decide who's qualified and who's not. Now, we can tell the mayor, hey, we want this job description. And the mayor can come with a job description. You guys can hammer out those qualifications that is necessary. But that's a question that you're gonna have to work with the administration on. But as of right now, in the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code and in the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code, there are no specific requirements to be the code enforcement officer.
So we can't pick the code enforcement officer.
No, mayor.
Mayor picks the code enforcement officer, qualified or not, he picks them.
That's the key words.
Qualified or not,
No,
he
I-
picks them.
That's why we're, that's why we're having a circle. So-
Okay.
But not to mean what you're saying or anything, but Brandon laid it out how it is. So if you think he's not qualified, then it goes to the Property Maintenance Appeals Board. And then if you don't like their decision, then it goes to court.
Yeah.
Yeah. What comment, is that common, please? Or what?
I
It's a civil
think that
matter?
would go to the civil division of the municipal court.
A municipal, okay.
I think that's where that would go.
So you do have,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's not,
The entire
It's not-
concept of the Ratliff Code, the entire concept of property maintenance in general is doling out due process.
this all sounds really simple about, the 3 steps: inspector, board, go to court. Now let's talk about the money part. Okay, let's just say you have a $200 fix that the city wants you to make. Just use that as an example, All right, so you put your heels down and say, no, you're not qualified, you're not right, and I don't like the board's decision, so we're gonna go to court. Well, now that homeowner is up to $1,000 just to say hi, till they retain an attorney, spend 2 hours in court at a minimum, and whatever else, and court costs an hour less. Okay, over a $200 door. So that system's semi-broke too, because it's putting the burden on the homeowner, and he could be right as rain.
That's the way it works.
But that's not up to us.
I was gonna say,
just
that's
the
not
way
up to us.
That's
Okay,
just
that's
the
fine.
way it is.
That's
You
fine.
can always represent yourself.
We
You don't
can't
have to
change
buy an
that.
attorney.
Oh, I understand. I don't want to take the time of the committee here.
That's what we're here for.
I was gonna say, that's what we're here for.
But we don't have the time, we don't have the authority to change that procedure, right?
Right.
Right?
And
No,
we
that's
wouldn't,
baked into the
we wouldn't
Constitution.
want to dictate that we're going to have somebody qualified, because that'd be too simple.
Well, whether they're qualified or not, the mayor picks them.
I think as we're hammering out the scope of what our job and duty here is not a bad discussion to have. I mean, there's stuff that's without, outside of our scope of influence in this committee. So I'm not saying one way or another I agree or disagree with your statements or sentiments. I'm just saying that if it's something that we don't have control over, it's kind of like we're just,
It's a mute.
it's a moot point for us, whether it's wrong or right.
I think more to Clarissa's point, the whole issue of the property maintenance code is not to pick qualifications, because that's not in our scope. It's to actually write the code itself.
And the process within the actual
Well,
scope. But it's in our
we
scope.
can't change the process.
I was gonna say, we can't really change the process.
But-
It's baked into the 14th Amendment. Everyone gets due process.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about up to, but the Board of Appeals is written into the code.
Right.
So that's like the only function really that's written into the legislative component.
So you want
Right.
to take
Everything
that
else.
out?
No, I don't think we should.
No, I don't think we should either.
I don't think legally
Trying,
we
Ken.
can take it out. See, I don't think legally we can take it out, because you have to, before you go to court on this kind of stuff, you have to utilize all administrative measures. And the court's gonna say, why haven't you appealed this? And we say, well, we don't have a board. They're gonna say, you need a board. It's part of the administrative law in Ohio that you have to have due process spelled out in each and every administrative procedure. Because you can't go to court until you exhaust all of your administrative options. So it's already in the administrative code. So I don't think we would get away with not having the Board of Appeals.
Okay.
Is this open meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're all open. Hell, you
It
can
was
come in
until you
anyway.
showed up.
All right. 5 o'clock. You guys want to pick another subject?
What you got?
Want to move on? I was waiting.
I really think we need to get, which was on here, and we could talk about, and Ratliff he left before we got it, was the vacant property registration. I think that can help us a lot.
So does there have to be a commercial vacant property? So for the Savant or the GE building out there? Because I tried to get Ratliff to do that at one point, and he came up with a vacant property for residential. I said, no, that's not what we want.
What's the question here?
Is one existing? Is that what you're asking? If there's already an existing?
No, there's
We
none.
never got
No.
it, we never got it completed. He left. He got his big money job down in
If I may.
Alabama.
Brian Gurrero, back in 2023, at the very tail end before 2024, created a draft vacant property registration piece of legislation that was referred by the Health and Safety Committee to this committee to work through. It is in the packet if you guys wanted to look at it.
Oh, is it in there?
It clarifies commercial and residential properties.
Oh, it's in the packet.
Let me just grab mine real quick if you want.
Got too many packets.
Oh, someone stole mine.
Welcome to our world.
Where is this at? In the packet.
It's number 1,
There you go.
1361.02.
Oh, okay.
Man, I got too many emails.
Ah, there it is.
Structure and legend.
So my experience on this, there's several buildings. My wife has a business here in town. I help her out with more than I want to, but anyway, we had been looking for buildings in town, and there's a couple particular buildings that sat vacant. It's like they don't even want to sell them, you know? It's like, hey, I'll give you what you want for it, but then, you have some kind of excuse, you know? And I don't know, maybe I'm not smart enough, that if this company or whoever owns it's getting some type of tax break because they let them sit empty, but they sit empty, they just deteriorate, and then they get, and this is, I'm just talking commercial buildings, but there's probably dozens and dozens of homes, and I know of several that sit empty, and by the time the property taxes get to $10,000, the roof's caving in, and then guess who has to clean it up? Yeah. So, well, we got one right down here now, you know, the Swan Building. You know, we need to put something, and that was Ratliff's thing, we need to put something in there that gives them some incentive to either sell it or, you know, we'll get money out of it or whatever,
The
so.
Swan's building that sits in front is for sale. The building that sits behind it is storage,
For Whiteman, yeah.
so it's vacant.
But it's storage, but
It's
being used.
Well, I
I
could-
don't think under this, it would count as unoccupied
It's,
That's what I'm saying.
or vacant. It wouldn't be vacant. Because the way Brian's got this is a vacant structure is going to be defined as a commercial vacant structure, a structure in which no person or persons currently conduct a lawful licensed use in said space, or in the case of a lawfully licensed business use, is not open and accessible to the public for at least 24 hours during any consecutive 7-day period. Commercial structures with residential occupants on upper levels but empty space at street level will be considered a vacant commercial structure. So I don't think that would count as a vacant commercial structure. Right?
Okay.
Based on that reading?
Sure.
what about the old Geyers? Same owner. Can he say, hey, I'm storing stuff in there? So,
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
is it a structure, is it, because part of it is being leased, is part of it,
I mean,
the
Geyers,
portion
you know where
not-
Geyers used to be?
you're talking about like up by Suburban
By
Lights,
the
right?
bowling alley?
Yeah, but part of that strip mall is actually being occupied.
But
Part of
see,
it.
you don't need a license to store stuff, and storing stuff is perfectly lawful.
Right.
Right.
But is that a vacant building?
Is it vacant when part of it's being leased
I
out?
was gonna say, well, you can break it up into each unit, but a structure in which no person or persons currently conducting a lawfully licensed use in said space. I don't think that's legal. I don't think that's legal to define a commercial vacant structure in that way, because you don't need a license to, I mean, well, you don't need a license to store stuff, but if you're storing it for a commercial purpose, yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to do some research on.
Yeah, my wife owns a vacant building, we bought a new building, she has a vacant building. She's trying to sell it, but it's vacant, but I am storing some stuff in there, so.
Yeah, but you don't have a license to store stuff in there, do you?
I don't know.
Does it need
It's-
one?
You
it's still
don't
my-
need one.
I don't need one, it's still my business.
I was gonna
Or
say,
it's
you
still
don't
my
need
business.
one.
So if I got a vacant house that I don't want to fix up right away, that I can just put some stuff in there.
How long can I let that sit there?
Well, that wouldn't be that would fall under residential vacant structure, which is a structure within a residential zoned area which displays evidence of vacancy.
So as long as I keep the water hooked up and the heat on.
Well, no, because under this, evidence of vacancy would be,
I'll give it back to you if I see it.
yeah.
Is it in the email?
Evidence of vacancy would fail for being overly broad, because what is evidence of vacancy? Anything. I mean,
You know, you ring the doorbell and no one answers.
that's evidence of vacancy. I mean, you go up and 24 hours later, you go up, you ring the doorbell, say someone's at work and it's noon, you go, and then the next day at noon, 24 hours later, you go ring the doorbell, there's no cars and no one answered the door, that's evidence of vacancy.
Yeah, but it does have, it gives a definition in that paragraph E.
But see,
Including
that doesn't matter
owners, yeah.
because that definition is still problematic.
Special conditions not limited to, so the fact that he's below standard utility usage, so none of that, he defines what evidence of vacancy is, but you're saying the
But
use of the term
it's not
itself.
limited to that, right? So even though, so the way that canons of construction work is even though this is not sufficiently listed as a closed enumerated list of evidence of vacancy, right?
Right, I
So
understand what you're saying.
it can just keep going.
Right. It's not giving a term of a definition, it's giving you
Right.
examples.
Include, but are not limited to.
To, gotcha.
Significantly below standard utility usage, overgrown and or dead vegetation, accumulation of newspapers, circulars, flyers, mail, accumulation of junk, trash, broken up, blah, 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 the absence of blah, 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 habitation, all that stuff is well and fine if you're using a common sense approach. But what if I just really don't like you and I just
I
go
can't imagine anybody
knock on
feeling
your
that way.
door and say, hey, guess what? You weren't home, 24 hours has passed, I came back, you weren't home, there's no cars, you didn't get your mail today, therefore, I have evidence of vacancy.
Yeah.
God
Right.
forbid you go on vacation for a week.
God
right?
forbid you go on vacation for a week, and what are you supposed to do? Tell the government you're going on vacation for a week? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know, maybe this is something that's just undoable, I don't know, but other communities have it,
Yeah,
apparently.
Other communities do have them, that was one of the things I was looking
So-
into for the revenues.
Well, a lot of communities do things that they think, oh, somebody with a vindictive spirit wouldn't ever do that.
1361
No one ever
is,
misses
But
Wow.
the intent of this is to have I think it's on the corner of Dudley, well, I think they were living there now.
You mean 450 Dudley?
Is that the one, 450 Dudley?
Nobody's living there, we're trying to
No.
find the owners. It's something.
Exactly, you know, we were dealing with that years ago. The first thing we got on that one was that cockroaches were mitigating to the neighbor's house. Of course, I believe all the neighbors have passed away because it's been so long. So that's
Would that
probably
fall
not
under
a
Crawford County
problem.
Public Health though? I believe that infestations fall under Crawford, the health department, right?
Nope, they won't do a thing.
I was gonna
on the
say,
health
they
board.
won't do anything.
They won't do a thing.
So if we're on our own, then,
The problem is 450 Dudley's in a trust or an estate.
Mhm.
It's in an estate and I can't find the heirs.
And you can't foreclose on it either.
And I can't foreclose on it.
Get a hold of Vicky DeShawn, she'll find him.
so I was
Well-
saying, maybe you're not using the right resources.
That's.
So
Oh no,
There's a
I'll go
Facebook-
knock on their door. You give me an address, I'll go knock on their door and talk to
It
them.
takes no knocking on any doors.
That's the issue we had
Say your
on,
name.
what, Rogers Street for years? The old
Two of them.
Two of them, yeah. They knew where he was. They just couldn't get a hold of him, get him served, you know, so we were around with that for years, so. I don't know.
I seen one of those
I don't
houses
think
sold
so.
for 140,000 there last year or something.
Of his? Yeah.
Yeah, somebody bought it and fixed it up right
The
there
one
on
out
Rogers.
on Old 30?
No, I was thinking of one on Rogers.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he had that one on Old 30 he left sit empty, right on the curve going into Crestline. I guess the basement caved in on that, is what I heard. Somebody ended up buying that, so.
So my question is, I know you get, like on the property cards, you look up on the county auditor's website, it doesn't already indicate like if a property is considered vacant. I'm seeing it stating that we wanted to register it, but is when you are intending on leaving it for a certain amount of time? I'm just trying to hammer out this scope of why all of this information was needed. Registration to be submitted on forms provided to the Bucyrus Property Maintenance Department. I'm looking at 136103, paragraph B.
Registration shall be submitted on forms provided to the Bucyrus Property
We got
Maintenance
a
Department.
registration
It shall
somewhere,
include the following
right?
information: the names and addresses of the current owner or owners if the owner does not reside across the county or within 25 miles of the city of Bucyrus, the name and address of the third party that designation of authorized agent under.
Didn't we have a registration at one time? Registration form?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, this would be great if we could find a better definition of what vacancy means.
I'm wondering, should there be something under evidence of vacancy that includes like evidence of foreclosure or delinquent taxes or something?
Yeah,
to that
delinquent
effect?
taxes should be, you know.
It's usually a red
signal,
flag.
You know, if
Yep.
you're 2 years in arrears, you
Like,
know, or a year.
I understand what Brian was going for, is the common sense approach, but it's just too vague.
So what's your suggestion, Mr. Law Director?
My suggestion is let me play with it.
I think this could alleviate, maybe, I don't know, just thinking maybe 25% of the buildings, derelict buildings in town, maybe. You know, maybe not that much, but hopefully, you know. But then you have less to worry about on you can concentrate on the ones that people actually live in.
Okay, we've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes and we can't get anywhere because we can't make any decisions, so let's pick a new date for a meeting.
What are you thinking, boss?
About March 12th,
March 12th
same time.
at 4 o'clock?
March 12th,
4
yeah,
o'clock.
we'll
So-
probably make that.
Just as a question then, if we can't make any, we don't have the majority for a
You can't
vote. So we can't even ask him to make any changes.
No,
Nope.
not ask him to do anything.
So,
It's just like a jam session,
right,
or whatever you call it.
I'm not meaning to irritate people, I'm pretty sure they have more things to do than hang around here, but I'm gonna guess probably Aaron's not planning on coming then at all.
Not today.
Okay.
No.
With it being a month, my only suggestion is,
So you do realize this is the third meeting I've had 4 meetings I've had this week.
oh,
so-
I understand. I'm not saying to stay here, what I'm saying is that if you did just want to actually put something in Brandon's court, we wouldn't have to have a full, we'd have a meeting still, but I'm just saying that,
Yeah, but the thing is, you guys can't ask me to do anything because you don't have.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if Aaron can be here, then we have it at the next meeting. He's wanting to wait a month. I'm saying if you did one sooner than a month, to get something
You want to
started.
do a quick, short one, or what?
That was my suggestion.
You know how that
Knock
goes,
out
don't
quick
you?
one.
This was a short one.
This was a quick short. Hey,
Okay, you're here for council meetings. You're here for council meetings. I'm here for council meetings. You, and you are all here for council meetings. Why don't we just have the special ad hoc committee after the committee meeting, or a council meeting?
It'd be midnight.
Before, like 5 minutes
And then you know
before.
it's over.
Yeah,
see?
like 5 minutes before, make the official request.
Okay.
Then I can give you guys something. And then it doesn't have to be a month. Everyone will be here already.
Can
And we
I-
don't have to wait until after in case it's like midnight.
Can I interrupt for
We
a
have to
second?
talk to the boss.
We already have a different special ad hoc meeting scheduled for next Tuesday.
Fine, committee, whatever.
I'm just making that known to you that we have one at 3:30 that day.
Let's
So
do.
I will also not be available next week.
So we
I will be
scratch
out.
So give me a date. Give me a date.
No, I think they're keeping that, but they want something before so that Brandon can officially begin working on things. So, yeah, you have to be careful.
we can do Tuesday or Thursday, the 25th or the 27th of February. Those are the days that I'm available.
I'm available those days.
What is the day? What, or did,
I'm
have
good
we
with
agreed on something?
Either the
25th.
25th or the 27th.
Let's go to the 25th, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock works for me.
I do take unpaid leave for that, but we also need to be mindful of Erin because she has her.
Which one, February?
Yeah.
All right, you wanna do 5?
25th at 4 o'clock?
We can do 4:30.
4:30.
Or do you want to do 5?
That's fine, I can do 4:30.
Is that relieve you from taking time off?
I'm still on take unpaid leave, but that's okay. That's not a lot. It's just an hour.
February 25th at 4:30.
4:30, okay. So, before we get out, I was just thinking of one thing, and I don't know, maybe it's a bad idea, maybe it's not, but I had a suggestion that before, well, not before this meeting, but before then we're going to have one on the 18th probably too, you say?
It's a different ad hoc, it would be for zoning
Oh,
regulations. Yeah, we have 3 different ad hocs currently.
yeah, but so we're just having this one at 4:30, quick one?
Yeah.
It
Should
would-
take like 5 minutes.
On the
Yeah.
25th, yeah.
Well, I guess before next big one, when everyone's here, just drive around town and look, and pick out 5 or 6 or 7 or houses, write down the address, and see what's wrong with it. And I think that's what we need to fix around here, you know? It's not, hey, their ceiling fan only has 4 blades on it, or, you know, they don't have, you know, they have an extension cord running out to their shed, you know? I mean, that's probably not a good thing, but, you know, that's probably not.
Well,
I'm probably guilty of that. so.
And I agree with that too, because I'm sure, I mean, I joke that I live in a 1900 farmhouse and I'm pretty sure half of it's held together with bubble gum and duct tape. But what I'm trying to say is that my only other point of contention was that giving resources to people who may need them that aren't property owners. That was my only.
Oh, that aren't property, yeah. Well, we've had, I mean, in the past, we had a big grant for downtown that people could fix up their buildings downtown. I don't know how many years ago it was. It may have been before, I think it was right after we redid the downtown, but there was this grant money. Nobody, not one person took advantage of that. I mean, it was like a $50,000 grant that you could get to fix the facade of your building, not one person. And I think I blame that on on the administration. They should have went door to door and got somebody.
Send flyers out. or
Yeah, or something, but anyway, but what I'm saying is, we get that one grant for people to do windows and different things every year. You know, we need to make that available to them too, and I'm
Did
sure
you get
there's
that
other
through the
things.
partnership?
What's that?
Did you get that through the partnership?
It probably is now, chip grants, yeah,
Yeah.
chip grants. Get that every year, or they put money out for it. I don't know who all partakes in it. I haven't.
Public
I probably
participation? Come on up.
Anybody want to get up and talk?
You want to
Yes,
talk?
guy
We
looks
got
like he
one.
wants to.
Questions here is all.
Sure.
I'm just, 823 High Street, Miguel. I know I got a couple boxes out on my porch, so I'll take them down, sorry. But I guess for me, it's more of a, I know you guys keep bringing up, like, bringing things to code and stuff, but some of these properties are damn near 100 years old, you know? I guess my question here is, if it wasn't code back then, do you force property owners to get up to code now? How's that work?
From my understanding, that's building, right? That would be built, he's talking about building
I was
code.
gonna say that would be
Because
building.
you guys kept talking about like finding outlets in people's
Oh, yeah.
homes, and,
The GFCI or whatever.
yeah, but if it wasn't code when the house was built and it hasn't been upgraded, I mean, how do you force somebody to do that?
Well, one thing about it, if it's a, what do you call it, pin and pull wire?
Yeah.
Knob and
Doesn't have a
tubing?
ground, huh?
Chop
Knob
it.
and tube. If
Knob
it's
and
knob and tube, you don't want to put a GFI on that or any other type of receptacle that has an actual ground in it. But it would have to be rewired all the way back to the
Well,
bottom.
I understand how it works, I'm more wondering where you guys, at what point do you enter someone's property and say, hey, this isn't right, you need to get up to code, if property was built before that code applied?
The enforcer.
Grandfather thing, building codes.
Well, you would have to be able to, it would depend a lot on when you sell it. When you sell something, lots of people do the inspections, right? So when you sell something in an unsafe manner, you're responsible for that, unless there's a disclaimer. But basically, it's baked into how to transfer a house that houses are supposed to be updated as they get older.
Should be. So,
Should be.
and again, you got property owners that have multiple properties, probably rent them out. Okay, I understand how you could maybe inspect those buildings, but how do you inspect privately owned residences?
With a warrant.
Yeah, we wouldn't, nobody's gonna go in with this and inspect the inside of your
Just
property.
making sure, just
No.
making sure.
So,
I think I understand your question now. So if Gordon wants to go in anywhere and he doesn't have permission through a voluntary consensual encounter, he would have to get a warrant, just like anybody from any governmental institution, unless there's an exigency, like an emergency.
Okay. That's the main thing
Mhm.
that I had concerns about, and then the other thing is how you guys are gonna apply these, the rest of the building codes on the properties, like you said, point out 5 houses. Are you applying them evenly? Is someone gonna be driving around looking at every single building? Or is it just gonna rely on complaints, so you got a neighbor that doesn't like you who just complains all the time?
That is typically how they come to us, is based on complaints. If you go next door, there's, the zoning, there's cards that anyone can come in and fill out and list what's wrong with the house in question. That's typically how that works. The only other way is the property maintenance enforcement officer actually goes out and looks at something and says, hey, I should probably look at that. Click.
Okay. I just had a concern with that because I know when I initially moved into this town, I received a notice for somebody, my neighbor's broken down pickup truck. And, you know, I let the enforcement guy know that's not my pickup truck, that's actually a neighbor's. And then it still sat there for another year. So, you know, it was
So-
applied to me, but wasn't applied to somebody else. But again, I didn't complain because you do you, I'll do me.
It's great. But more to Dan's point, I want to make sure that you don't misunderstand. I don't think Dan's saying, we're going to come and tell you what these 5 houses are.
Right.
We're just like, hey, that guy has a collapsed roof. Mark that down, like we should talk about collapsed roofs. Not necessarily that specific house, and we're going to talk about this house, this house, this house, and this house. Just general stuff.
Yeah. No. Like I said, my question was more along the lines of, is it going to be applied evenly, or is it just going to be complaint-based?
That's the idea behind it. Evenly.
Evenly? All right.
Well, I got two things. First, I don't think with the code enforcement officer working 15 hours a week, I'm not gonna say he doesn't, but he's probably not driving around looking for work, okay? He's probably got enough, for one, so. And the other thing was, I was talking about this International Property Maintenance Code. Now, this is set up for like, if you're living in a condo in Columbus, it should have all this stuff. And that was, my point was, we don't need this, and I think that's what everyone agrees. We don't need what this says we need. We need to be more like what you're saying. You know, you're living in a 50, 60, 70, 100-year-old house. You got the two-prong outlets. I got the two-prong outlets in my house, 50 years old. It's got two-prong outlets in it, you know, and they're not all changed, you know. So my house isn't going to make this code. I'm not going to tell everybody else they should.
Oh, yeah.
They should meet the code.
If you want to giggle, and what makes you giggle might be different than what makes me giggle, but look at the window requirements in
Yeah,
this thing.
yeah,
The window requirements, not a single house in this city follows that.
Right, right. And there's things like caulk, double pane window with, you know, certain UV, all this stuff. That's the stuff we said, this is a good thing, and I was saying, but this is a good thing to fall back on, but I don't think this should be the requirement, you know? And I think that's what this whole thing is.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
We don't
Yeah, there's
want
no way
to
that's gonna be
require this.
enforced, but we need something to fall back on just in case, is what I'm thinking.
Would it be more like a reference material than even enforceable, though? That's, I think, the issue. I mean, I say like, you know, one rotten egg spoils a bunch, but I'm just saying, if you have it in there and it's litigated, you could argue that it's not enforceable. I just don't want it to be something where it muddies the water. Does that make sense what I'm saying, or no?
Not even kind of.
So why would you put it in there if it's not enforceable?
Because the government likes to be able to pull the Uno reverse card and be like, hey, we said that this, now we don't like you. And that's the whole, they're going to be enforcing it unevenly is, well, you pissed us off. So now it says in here, I can default based on that a room or group of rooms for forming a single habitable space equipped and intended to be used for living, sleeping, cooking, and eating that does not contain within such a unit a toilet, lavatory, and bathtub or shower. Well, by God, you don't have a bathtub or shower, pay this fine.
But we just said that in its entirety is not enforceable, so that's where.
No, but if we don't specifically take it out and it's the default, then it controls.
It could.
I have feelings.
It
All right, let's
could.
think about this for a couple days.
Yeah, I need to process.
But I don't think we're the property maintenance Gestapo, you know, I don't think anyone's gonna be kicking in any doors or, anything like that. I think, and I always thought, the main intention was to get, you know, there's so many not so great properties that we needed to have an outlet. We were getting a lot of complaints years ago about this guy, that guy, you know, fence falling down. You know, I have a rental on the neighbor's property, the fence is falling onto my property, knocking my fence over.
Okay.
You know, what do I do?
Anything
You know?
else?
I got nothing else, man. Just want to be left alone.
Thank you, Jim.